Cheap investments are one of the greatest areas to look into if you're not looking to have a huge amount of money in, but have a lot of potential. And the first up is going to be Paris Capsules. Now, obviously, when we're talking about Paris, we do know there is a lot of problems inside of this area. If you want to look at the graphs, it's quite obvious. A lot of them are in a very struggling phase right now. Most of them are down below 25 cents, and the ones that are above are autograph capsules, which we know long-term are not exactly where we want to be, but we do have some data to back up the investment opportunity inside of Paris. If we want to look at the sticker application numbers, we can see that all of the numbers have actually gone down in the past month. Now, this looks very concerning if you're a Paris investor, but there is a reason behind this. If you want to look at it, every single sticker during this period right here was green, and that's because we saw the brand new update where you could put a 5th sticker onto any weapon, creating so much crafting potential with this area. If we want to look at the previous month compared to the first month on this list, we can see that every single sticker has gone up quite significantly in the application numbers. I would say this is definitely something that would be more interesting to look at than the fact that almost all of them are down in the red. I will say, obviously, we know Paris has a significant amount of problems when it comes to an oversupply. We know the massive amount of capsules that are out there, the massive amount of stickers that are out there, but when we're talking about cheap investments, it is something that, at least at this point, we do know where it's at, and it's definitely something I would suggest checking out if you want to get into the sticker market.
SkinSwap is today's sponsor, and they're also sponsoring you with a free bonus for signing up with the first link in the description. They're the premier place for CSGO and Rust skins, with a massive trading site and a top-of-the-line marketplace, offering you the most competitive rates out there and a massive 40% bonus when you're using that link in the description. Combine that with their top-of-the-line selling feature with many payout options, and their trading feature legitimately taking you just about a minute, and there's no reason not to sign up with that first link in the description.
To further emphasize on this point, we have the Stockholm Data right here, and as you can see, a significant amount of them have also gone down quite significantly. Almost all of them are in the red, except for a couple specific ones. If we want to focus in on the Legends capsule, it is actually the only one that has consistently shown up with a couple in the green, and that's going to be your hollows as well. I will say Stockholm is definitely more developed than Paris. It's going to be a much safer investment. You're just going to be spelling out a little bit more cash. Now, the Legends capsule for here in Stockholm is not too expensive, and it's something, if you want a little bit more of a safe option, it could be what you want to look into. And then lastly, we have the Antwerp Data, which in my opinion is actually very interesting because if we want to look at the glitter applications, they have skyrocketed inside of this area. This is due to the past update in a couple different ways. First up, if we want to talk about the fact that you can now apply 5 stickers, that's obviously very important, but more importantly, people are now able to stack stickers, and glitters are one of the most popular ways to do that. We're seeing people stacking up glitters and hollows, and we're seeing a lot of hollows get used, but that's just something we saw already. The glitters is something that has picked up significantly for a decent amount of them, and we can see that right here with Antwerp. It's very interesting, but it's definitely not something that I think is going to last super long term, but it's definitely something in the short term is going to benefit Antwerp, and Antwerp is already in a decent middle ground position. Now, when we're talking about cheap investments, we do have to talk about Copenhagen, because obviously, even though the sale has not hit yet, there is going to be a sale. They're going to go down to 25 cents a capsule, and therefore, there's a lot of investment opportunity for some people and not a lot for others inside of this area. I will say it's definitely going to be very dependent on how much of the supply is in for Copenhagen. Obviously, we know the demand and supply are the only two factors that make this up, because we know a lot of things are competing with Copenhagen. We've got Antwerp, we've got Stockholm, and most importantly, we've got Paris, which is a very similar looking sticker, and it's got a massive supply out there already. Copenhagen is already going into a very saturated market, and even though there are some very expensive stickers out there, it's not going to be something that is going to completely eliminate the competition that it's going to be receiving from those other areas. I will say be very careful about making any Copenhagen investments. Obviously, don't do anything until the sale hits, which is going to be in there for a very significant amount of time, but most importantly, make sure you know what you're going into for Copenhagen is a strong investment and not something that someone told you to go into, because there's going to be a lot of that going on for Copenhagen. Now, the sticker market can be definitely a volatile area, and therefore, if you're looking for something safer, rare cases are going to be my #1 suggestion. Now, rare cases are also a little bit of a diverse area. If we want to talk about, we've got cases like the Snakebite. Snakebite is the most recently removed case from the Prime Drop pool, making it the cheapest rare case out there. And if you want to look at it, it seems like a very enticing offer, but you got to remember the supply on this thing is absolutely massive. If we want to take a look at the Clutch case, the second most recently removed case, we can see exactly what happened with it after it was removed. Obviously, we saw a short shoot up in price and then a very stagnant period. We haven't really seen much growth for the Clutch case. Therefore, you can definitely say the Snakebite might be off limits, and you might want to look at the Clutch case just because you think it's a little bit more developed. Definitely your decision if you're looking for the 2 cheapest cases. Otherwise, I think there's so much more opportunity if you want to tap into maybe a little bit more expensive of a case. We're not talking about $2, $3, we're talking about 70 cents. We got Prisma 2, Danger Zone, Prisma 1, CS20, Horizon. There's a lot of cases inside of this area that have so much more potential than those previous 2, especially in the current moment when we're talking about a safety factor. These cases are already developed, they've got a very strong demand behind them, and honestly, in the short term, it might be the play you want to make. Overall, as long as you're going into a rare case because of the fundamentals behind it, we're talking about unboxing numbers, we're talking about potential supply that is estimated around it. As long as you're making smart decisions about these cases, you're going to be putting yourself in the best position to go ahead and make profit profit. And when we're talking rare cases, making profit is honestly not too hard to do as long as you're just holding onto these cases and you don't get scared. Another area that's spectacular for cheap investments are going to be the operation items. Now, obviously, we don't have an operation going on right now, but if we want to look at the data, we are currently in the longest period of history for not having an operation. I think it's quite likely that we're going to see a lot of interest start to pick up inside of this area. And therefore, when we're talking about an operation, there is so much investment potential, especially for some of these cheaper items. If we want to talk about it, usually stickers are one of the best areas for an operation investment, and they're usually one of the cheapest as well because they come out in such massive supplies in the short term, and then they're completely cut off. I will say definitely when an operation comes out, these are the areas you want to be looking into because there's so much potential inside of this area. We can see consistently these are one of the best performing investments from an operation because people are not thinking about them immediately when the operation hits, and therefore they're not picking them up at a super low price point. They're waiting until they've already 5 or 10x before they start to take interest. Now, another area that's recently entered into this conversation is going to be filler skins. Now, when we're talking about filler skins, there is a wide range. We've got light blue, we've got blue, and we've got purple. If we want to look at the blue specifically to start, we can see that if we want to look at a 1-year trajectory, we are currently at the lowest price point we've seen in the past year. This is because of the new drop system allowing significantly more filler skins to be out there, and it's very important to recognize that fact before we talk about filler skins. Now, talking about filler skins specifically, there is a huge potential when an operation or a major update comes out. These things go absolutely crazy in price. People are super in demand for these items, and usually during that time we can see the price double to triple to quadruple depending on what price point it's sitting at beforehand. If you have a small budget, filler skins are not for you. These are not a traditional investment, but if you got some extra money and you really want to go into this area, it might not be the worst idea as long as you fully understand what you're going into. Now, it's also extremely important to recognize the current market and what's going on specifically right now. If you want to look at it, there is just so much confusion because people don't know exactly what Valve is going to be doing. Valve is still actively making changes on their trading, on everything going on inside of this area, and it's extremely important that you do be aware of that because that can go ahead and affect the investing market. Now, if we want to look at all of these graphs right here, we can see that obviously nothing negative has extremely occurred in past week or so just because of this update, but it's something that long term has a very strong potential to have a very slight impact, or if we could just see it and Valve drops a major bombshell, it could have a very strong negative impact in the short term. I don't think that honestly right now is a terrible time to buy depending on what you're investing into, but there's definitely some areas that I probably wouldn't be making a super heavy investment into if I didn't know for sure that I wanted to stay in this area for a long time. Now, lastly, what specifically would I buy? Well, the truth is I think it's definitely important to have some exposure to the sticker market, whether that's Stockholm, Antwerp, Paris, Copenhagen, or any stickers that you want out there. I think it's important to have some of that for diversification purposes. Overall though, I would definitely say rare cases are going to be my #1 go-to. Whether that's the snakebite clutch or one of those other safer cases, it's extremely important that you have some investment inside of this area because these are going to be the #1 investment, or at least they have been over the past couple of years, and I don't think that's anything about that going to change for the near future. That's all I got. Well, thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of the day.